A treaty for mutual defense has been signed by the three leaders of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Three parties to the Sahelian States Alliance pledged to support one another in the event of an outside assault. This might involve an intervention similar to the one that West African powers have vowed to make against the junta that took control of Niger in July. Can African nations be saved by unity? African nations now band together autonomously after having their faith in Western partnerships violated. Three more nations have just made the decision to join a new alliance that aims to be more powerful than ECOWAS and other like groups. But the question is, will the West step in to put an end to these coalitions? Such alliances have the potential to tip the scales of power. So how may the West react to this development? Let's investigate. Three West African countries have made a historic advance towards statehood and regional stability, with the official formation of a new confederation on Saturday, July 6. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso came together for their first summit, bringing about a dramatic change in the geopolitical landscape of West Africa. What spurred Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali to join the Sahel Confederation? In the capital of Mali, officials convened to ink an agreement that seems certain to impede efforts to re-establish democracy in the Sahel region of Africa. The terms of the agreement were made apparent by Mali's foreign minister. Any assault on the territorial integrity and sovereignty of one or more of the signatories shall be viewed as aggression against the others, necessitating a relief and aid obligation from all of the signatories. Every one of the three former French colonies has seen a military takeover since 2020. It was the most recent in Niger. Here, the democratically elected president was overthrown by soldiers in July. The West African states business community has denounced the junta, despite the fact that a large number of Nigerians have come out in favor of the nation's new military rulers. The Confederation Sahel was formed with the intention of achieving more political and economic independence. A break from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The new confederation is officially called the Confederation of Sahel States, AES. This move represents a united front against imperial and colonial pressures, especially from France and its Western allies. The goal of these countries' leaders is to create a sub-regional political and economic bloc that places a premium on self-sufficiency and integration across regions. Some have historically believed that France and the European Union have used ECOWAS as a mechanism to maintain control over the governments of West Africa. One example of this control is the sanctions that were placed on Niger after a coup. Niger's economy and regional connections were badly damaged by these sanctions, which included trade bans and financial restrictions. As a result, their alliances were reevaluated, and the country began to move toward confederation. The Sahel Confederation's formation is a practical step toward a more cohesive and independent region, not merely a symbolic one. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso separated from ECOWAS in an audacious attempt to liberate themselves from the political and economic chains imposed by foreign powers. This move is perceived as a bid to regain sovereignty and set a new direction for their shared future. The Confederation Sahel's inaugural conference demonstrated these countries' dedication to deeper integration and collaboration. The leaders emphasized their common objectives and support of one another in a treaty they announced, laying the groundwork for this new alliance. It is anticipated that this action will have a major impact on the area and may encourage other countries to take similar actions. Confederation formation was not a hasty choice. It conveys a deep-seated dissatisfaction with the current situation as well as an understanding that real development necessitates a fundamental shift in strategy. The governments of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are aware that their shared issues will determine how well they can cooperate and support one another in the future. Together, they are tackling these issues and building a brighter future for their people through this confederation. The lofty political and economic objectives of the confederation are framed by this fundamental change. So, how does the Confederation Sahel hope to change the member states' economic environments? Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by dropping a comment in the comments section below. Please do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. The leader of Burkina Faso will receive a red carpet greeting when he meets with peers from Mali and Niger for a combined summit. For the first time, the three leaders of the junta are meeting as a coalition of Sahel states, a new regional organization with the goal of bringing divided West Africa together. The battle against terrorism and identifying strategies to improve collaboration are on the schedule. This is the Coalition of Sahel States' inaugural and historic summit. We are quite delighted to be witnessing an African summit today, where nations have united to combine their resources, assemble their armies, and form an alliance for growth devoid of outsiders or allies from nations that have historically ruled over us. The goal of the Confederation Sahel is to transition each member nation away from the resource-renting economic model that has long defined many African states, and toward the development of an industrial base. The goal of this economic plan is to lessen reliance on outside investment and assistance while achieving self-sufficiency. In order to create a strong economic base that can support long-term growth and development, the Confederation promotes local entrepreneurship and home industries. The Confederation's main goal is to create an economic strategy that takes advantage of the distinct assets and capabilities of each member state. This strategy calls for the creation of joint ventures, the encouragement of local trade, and the construction of infrastructural projects that will improve connectivity and ease trade. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso intend to generate a mutually beneficial synergistic impact by combining their resources and expertise. The Confederation Sahel aims to create a unified political framework that bolsters their shared objectives in addition to economic integration. This entails coordinating laws and regulations, establishing cooperative institutions, and putting in place accountability and transparency, ensuring governance frameworks. The leaders of these countries understand that attaining sustainable economic development requires political stability and sound governance. The Confederation also seeks to lessen foreign nations' influence in its internal affairs, especially that of France. The member states intend to increase their negotiating power on the global arena and get more advantageous terms in their negotiations with other nations and organizations by cultivating a spirit of unity and solidarity. They regard this tactical realignment as a means of reaffirming their independence and safeguarding their interests. A fundamental component of the Confederation's agenda is economic self-sufficiency. The leaders are well aware that their ability to make independent judgments is restricted by their reliance on foreign investment and aid, which frequently has conditions attached. Their goal is to establish a self-sufficient economy that can meet the demands of its citizens and withstand external pressures by expanding their industrial base and encouraging local entrepreneurship. Initiatives to enhance education and training are also part of the Confederation's economic plan, which aims to provide the workforce with the skills necessary to sustain industrial growth. Achieving long-term economic success requires a focus on the development of human capital. The leaders are aware that fostering innovation and preserving competitiveness in the global market depend on having a workforce that is educated and skilled. Security continues to be a top priority for the Confederation as it concentrates on political and economic integration. The heads of state of Burkina Faso and Mali visited Niamey, the capital of Niger, for the official assembly of the Alliance of Sahel States, their own regional alliance. These nations had made much of this alliance a few months prior, but on Saturday they formally signed a confederation treaty and made some jabs at the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the largest regional organization in West Africa. Our people's disinterest in ECOWAS is irreversible, It is now our responsibility to establish the Alliance of Sahel States Confederation as a substitute for any fictitious regional alliance. What steps are being taken, then, to address the security issues in the area? The Confederation Sahel's member nations are extremely concerned about security because armed rebellions and Islamist insurgencies continue to pose a threat to the area. The Confederation has developed a thorough counterinsurgency plan with the goal of eliminating extremist organizations and bringing stability in order to handle these issues. The creation of the Liptako-Goma Charter, a mutual defense agreement, is a crucial element of this plan. The member states are obligated by this agreement to work together to combat terrorism and prevent and put an end to armed uprisings. The goal of the member states' cooperation is to develop a cohesive and potent response to security threats by combining their military might and intelligence. The coordinated actions to secure borders and critical infrastructure, as well as combined military operations and intelligence sharing, are outlined in the Liptako-Goma Charter. The purpose of these actions is to improve the region's ability to respond to security threats and guarantee the citizens' safety. The member states are dedicated to cooperating in order to eradicate the existence of extremist organizations and establish a safe atmosphere that promotes growth and prosperity. The Confederation has created a counterinsurgency strategy with both military and non-military elements in addition to the Mutual Defense Agreement. Direct action against extremist groups, including targeted operations to destroy their networks and impede their operations, is part of the military component. The goal of the non-military component is to address the underlying factors that contribute to insurgency, such as social marginalization, poverty, and a lack of education. The Confederation understands that attaining long-term security requires more than just a military strategy. As a result, part of their plan is to support social services, better education, and economic development in insurgent-affected areas. The member states intend to establish conditions that deter recruitment and support for extremist groups by addressing the root causes of extremism. In their efforts to counterinsurgency, the Confederation Sahel's leaders have also stressed the significance of regional and global cooperation. In order to improve their capacities and exchange best practices, they are looking to fortify their relationships with international partners and adjacent nations. For the region to achieve long-term security and stability, cooperation is thought to be crucial. The Confederation is strategically realigning its international alliances while also addressing security problems. The ECOWAS was founded in 1975. It was a confederation of 15 West African nations. That figure is now down to 12. The Sahel Coalition surprised ECOWAS, which had been planning to discuss reintegrating the Sahel states. It is obvious that disintegration will exacerbate regional insecurity in addition to interfering with people's freedom of migration and settlement. What new meaning is the Confederation Sahel giving to its foreign relations? The Confederation Sahel's establishment signifies a dramatic change in the region's foreign policy, especially with regard to Western countries. As a legacy of its colonial past, France has always maintained a significant military and political presence in West Africa. Currently, though, the Confederation's member states are attempting to reclaim their independence and lessen its influence. The relocation of French military installations from the area is a crucial component of this strategic realignment. The member nations have determined that their objectives of sovereignty and self-reliance are incompatible with the continuation of a foreign military presence. Additionally, the decision is a reaction to the growing anti-French sentiment among those populations who see the French troops' prolonged presence as a sort of neocolonialism. As an alternative to French military assistance, the Confederation is looking at new partnerships and alliances. An important trend is the growing partnership with Russia. The member states have held talks with Russian officials in order to investigate potential joint military and commercial endeavors. This covers the possibility of receiving training and assistance from the Russian military as well as investments in important industries like mining and energy. The leaders of the Confederation are also working to improve relations with neighboring African countries and regional associations. To encourage unity and group effort, they are proactively interacting with the African Union and other sub-regional organizations. This includes making an attempt to present a unified face on matters like political governance, economic development, and security. Beyond ties between the military and the political sphere, there is a strategic realignment. The member states are attempting to diversify their sources of trade and investment and are reevaluating their economic alliances. In addition to strengthening connections with long-standing allies in Africa and the Middle East, this entails looking into potential partnerships with developing economies in Asia and Latin America. Reducing reliance on Western aid and investment, which frequently impose restrictions on recipient nations' autonomy, is one of the objectives of this realignment. The goal of the member states' diversification of their relationships is to establish a more equal and balanced economic environment. This strategy is also thought to be a means of reducing the dangers connected to depending too much on one source of assistance. The strategic realignment has obstacles in addition to new opportunities. To combat organized crime and terrorism in the common area of Africa, the governments of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali have formed a military partnership. The commanders of the armed forces of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, Mali Colonel Azimi Goita, and Niger General Tiani formed the Defensive Military Alliance in Bamako, the capital of Mali. The three governments promised to combat organized crime and terrorism in all of its forms within the alliance's common area, according to the official statement. All of this is a part of the coordinated plan of action to stop terrorist organizations' activities. What are the prospects for the Confederation Sahel, and what obstacles does it face? The Confederation Sahel's capacity to successfully traverse a variety of obstacles and carry out its expansive agenda will determine how successful it is. Keeping each member state's political system stable is one of the main challenges. The Confederation's efforts may be hampered by the region's history of political turbulence, which includes coups and civil unrest. The member states are concentrating on bolstering their political stability and governance frameworks in order to tackle this challenge. This includes programs aimed at strengthening accountability, transparency, and the rule of law. The leaders are dedicated to fostering an atmosphere that supports sustainable growth, because they understand that maintaining political stability is necessary to accomplish their objectives in terms of security and the economy. The economic divide among the member states is another major obstacle. Despite having similar objectives, each nation's economy is very different. This discrepancy has the potential to fuel conflict and impede attempts toward economic unification. The Confederation is creating a framework for fair resource sharing and cooperative investment in important projects in order to reduce this risk. Even with a strong counterinsurgency strategy, security is still a constant problem for the Confederation. Stability and progress are still at peril from the violent uprisings and extremist groups. The member nations have to be on the lookout for new security risks and be flexible in order to constantly improve their tactics. International players who might regard the Confederation's attempts at independence and realignment with mistrust or hostility are another source of external pressure. A dedication to their common goal and cautious diplomacy will be necessary to navigate these outside forces. The Confederation Sahel's leaders must strike a balance between their quest for autonomy and their need to keep positive working relationships with important foreign allies. If they are able to successfully handle these obstacles, the Confederation Sahel has bright future potential. The Confederation could end up serving as an African example for self-sufficiency and regional integration. The member nations may improve the lives of their inhabitants and attain greater political and economic stability by cooperating and utilizing their combined strengths. The Confederation's capacity to galvanize and inspire support from its populace will also be a determining factor in its success. Confederation ideals must be embraced and a sense of ownership instilled in the public through involvement and engagement. To make sure that their people comprehend and embrace the idea of a united and independent Sahel, the leaders must give priority to outreach and communication initiatives. Thus, the Confederation Sahel's establishment marks a daring and historic move toward more sovereignty and stability in the West African region. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso want to work together to establish a safe, secure zone that is unaffected by outside forces. The Confederation's dedication to political unification, economic growth, and strategic realignment presents a potential template for a better future, despite the difficult road ahead. Their people's steadfast support and the efficient application of their plans are what will determine this endeavor's success. You believe that this action will prevent exploitation of African countries. Will more countries join? What do you think will happen if they do? Tell us what you think in the comments section below, and please do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one.